Hey, dog, you know the Grey Goose arrived today, man. It's a new fish on the yard, man. You see the white dude that just got off the Grey Goose? Man, he better hope he got some people on the yard, man. This chocolate's definitely coming for him, bro. Yeah, his name's Sebastián, man. They said them redneck white boys just trying to, bring him into their clique. But he gonna have to get with somebody. I already told you what was gonna happen, man. They said them goons ran in Sebastián's cell and robbed him twice, man. Twice within the last week. Oh, this is crazy, man. I guess Sebastián couldn't stand the rain, man. He done moved into the cell with chocolate. Yo, once again, it's on. Back at you one more again, Real Kens TV and the House Like Kitchen Sinks. I was sitting here and I was pondering, and I was really thinking about how dog eat dog prison truly is. There's a story way back when, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years ago, and it was a young man named Sebastián. Little white dude, man, probably about 24 years old, if I had to guess. Maybe about 5'10", 170 pounds. Clean cut dude, well-spoken, very, very respectful. Well, Sebastián found himself in prison. Out of all places to be, he finds himself in prison. So let me give you all the history, the brief history, if you will, on Sebastián. Sebastián had been out drinking one night with a couple buddies, college graduate, never been in trouble in his life. I don't even think Sebastián ever had a traffic ticket. As I mentioned, he'd been out drinking and they get into an accident. One individual doesn't make it, passes away unfortunately. There was a passenger in Sebastián's truck. Then the individual that Sebastián, crashed into or what have you, she was severely injured. Well, Sebastián gets charged with, I believe it was vehicular homicide or manslaughter, one of the two, and assault with a deadly weapon for the other individual that ended up, getting hurt in the accident. Sebastián's parents had a lot of money. Not sure exactly what they did, but, they had a lot of money, so they were able to hire a defense team, not just a lawyer, but an actual team. He rejects the plea deal, decides to go to trial. He goes to trial. The jury wasn't buying it. Guilty. They give him 8 years. 8-year sentence. Well, in Kentucky, once you get sentenced, once you get found guilty, you come back to court about a month later for final sentencing. And at that point, the judge can decide, okay, is this individual a good candidate for probation? So, they got up there and they spoke, and, they had a whole bunch of letters of recommendation, and the parents spoke, and Sebastián spoke, and everyone thought that he would potentially get probation. The judge wasn't impressed with Sebastián's parents' money, and he sent him to the pen for 8 years. However, he did say that after 6 months, 180 days, it's called shock probation in Kentucky, that he would consider allowing Sebastián to come home on probation. But he wanted him to go down and feel that cold, to feel that wrath of the penitentiary, because he felt as though, young man, you had the whole world at your in your hands or what have you, and you just blew it. You potentially blew your entire life by going out here drinking and driving. So, as I mentioned, he wanted him to go down for a little bit. So, he sends Sebastián on up the road. Now, in the Department of Corrections, every Tuesday and maybe every Thursday, there are certain days, I don't remember specifically, but I know that there are certain days to where new inmates arrive. And they arrive on what's called the Grey Goose. The Grey Goose is just a bus. Those old prison buses that you see in the movies? And, the prisoners are being transported to whatever prison they're going to. Well, that's how it is in Kentucky. And I would say pretty much everywhere. But as I mentioned, it's called the Grey Goose. So you got the inmates, they sitting around because they trying to see who's getting off the Grey Goose. Is this somebody from my hood? Somebody from my city? One of my partners? So they sitting around. And it could be very, very intimidating, because when you get off at Grey Goose, it might be a couple hundred inmates just sitting around, standing around. Now, for the people that, know people, what's up, dog? Yeah, come on over us. Come on over here with us, man. You with us. We're going to this dorm or we going up here, But there's individuals that don't know anyone. And when you take a guy like Sebastián that wasn't in the streets, you take a guy like Sebastián that had absolutely no sort of dealings with being in jail. After all, the entire time that this case was going on, the case took a couple years. He was out on bond. When the judge took him into custody, he probably sat in the county jail 45 days before he actually got sent to prison. So he wasn't really familiar with jail, and he definitely wasn't familiar with prison. Two totally different environments. Both being bad, though. Key word, bad. So Sebastián gets off the Grey Goose, and you can tell he's really, really intimidated. You can tell that he's really, really, heck, I'm going to go out on the limb and say afraid. He's a new fish. That's what you call it, in prison. Fish. New fish on the line. Somebody that's never been to prison before. You consider the fish. So he gets off. He's going to the property room to get his property, and they have to inspect the property that he's bringing in. And there's a formality when you first go to prison. Your first couple hours you're there, you're going to spend it in the property room and then go into medical. And so it's going to be, a few hours before you actually get to your dorm or your cell. So he goes through all the formalities or what have you, and he eventually goes to his cell. Now, people are looking around. They just going to scope you out for a couple days, couple weeks, just to see what your habits are, your routines, who how often you're going to the commissary, who you hanging around with, how often you're getting on the phone. Once people figure that out, then they're going to make the determination of, okay, we don't want to mess with this guy, or, yeah, this guy, he's definitely a target. Well, in Sebastián's case, it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to be a target. He didn't really hang with anybody. He didn't know anybody. He went to the commissary, came back with big bags. Back then, you could spend $125 a week in commissary. I don't know what you can spend now, but I'd say that he spent the whole $125. So he come back with the big bags. He stayed on the phone. Well, getting on the phone in prison is not cheap. So people determined, you know what? This dude got some money. So now you got a group of guys, man, in Kentucky prisons. They have gangs. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But you more so have cliques, neighborhoods, cities, counties. So you had a group of guys, and they was probably about 12 or 13 deep, and they seemingly were trying to, how do you want to put it? I guess you would say they were trying to recruit Sebastián. Redneck boys. That's what they went by, the redneck boys. Now these dudes, they was all white dudes, man. They was pretty cool. I didn't see nothing racist about them. You know what I'm saying? That's just, actually, let's take that back, because that wasn't their name. So let's take this back. We're going to manually rewind one time. They were the redneck white boys. That's the name that they went by. Like I said, you got Crips, you got Bloods, you got Vice Lords, but mainly you got cliques and neighborhoods, cities. So these guys, they were 12 or 13 deep, man. They were pretty cool dudes, man. But, if it came down to it, man, they was going to get down with you. They was going to scrap with you. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't no pushovers or anything like that. So they were actually trying to recruit Sebastián. Sebastián really wasn't feeling that. He didn't consider himself a redneck. I don't really know what the true definition of a redneck is, but whatever it is, Sebastián wasn't feeling that. So they're telling him, okay, man, you're gonna, it's prison, man, it's penitentiary, man. You're gonna need you some protection, man. You're gonna need some people to hold you down or what have you. Man, I know, man, but I only got a few months, man. And he was dead wrong for telling people that he only had a few months, but he's a fish. He didn't know. You see what I'm saying? I'm sure that he got some advice in the county jail about going to prison, but he really didn't know. You don't tell people your time, especially if you're a short timer. You only got a few months. You got dudes in there, they ain't never getting out. You got guys in there that 20, 30 years before they even have a chance to get out. And you talking about you only got, 3-4 months left. Somebody might just wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day and just off you. Simply because what's the worst that can happen to me? I go to the hole for a little bit and what? You can't give me no more time. I already got a life sentence. I already got 40 years, man, and I'm 35 years old now. So what can they do to me? So at any rate, he wasn't feeling that click whatsoever. So as the days went by, he would just walk around, just minding his business, just staying to himself. You had an individual, man, that went by the name of Chocolate. And this is a real story. A real name, actually. You know what I mean? He went by the name of Chocolate. Big dude, man. Stayed in the weight pal. He was probably about 6 foot. I don't know, a good 225, 230. He'd been locked up for a long time. Stayed pushing the weights. Poker, chess, weight pal. Those are the places where you was going to catch Chocolate at. Now, I never referred to the guy as Chocolate because I never even had any dealings with him and I never had to talk to him. So I couldn't imagine myself, hey, Chocolate, let me holler at you, man. But you heard that on the yard quite often. Chocolate like boys. He like white boys, young white boys. Well, the thing about it, people knew that Chocolate, it wasn't a secret. They knew that he liked, young white boys. But at the same time, nobody tried him. This dude was a monster, man. He's pushing 415 in the weight pile on the bench, with his legs in the air. You know what I'm saying? Just pressing 415. This dude's a monster, man. But he wasn't one of those type of individuals that was just going up to people and, knocking them out and taking their stuff. It wasn't like that whatsoever. But if you ran up on him, he was going to get your issue. So at this point, Chocolate, he has his eye on Sebastián. So he presses up on Sebastián one day. Hey, how you doing, man? Call me Chocolate, man. Your first time in is, he just basically just trying to fill him out. So Sebastián's not really saying too much. He knows not to really, he's kind of getting the whole prison thing. So he knows not to really tell too much of his business, too much of his story. So, his words are very, very, he's not saying too much at all. Well, in the meantime, them rednecks, man, them redneck white boys, man, they don't take too kindly of Sebastián not coming with them. So what do? They hire a couple dudes. Look, man, this is what I want y'all to do. Now, I don't know what the exact amount is, but let's just say it was $20 in commissary. Give both of y'all $20 in commissary. I want y'all to run in his cell, take his stuff, not necessarily, rough him up or anything. Just take his commissary. Just rob him. Cool. 2 dudes, 2 black dudes or whatever. They run in Sebastián's cell. Get it out. You know what it is. Now, prison, you got robberies that take place in prison. Sometimes they'll come in with knives. Sometimes they'll come in with locks and sock. Sometimes, man, they'll just come in, 2 or 3 deep. Hell, I've seen one dude just go in there with no weapons. Just depends on who it is, who you're dealing with. So they run into Sebastián's cell, take his bag. They press Sebastián a couple more days after that. Hey, man. Now, they act as though they don't know what happened. Hey, man, you sure you don't want to come with us, man? We see you by yourself, man, and, we're hearing a couple things on the yard, man. Sebastián, he's staying clear of all of that. They hired 2 more dudes. Actually, it was the same 2 dudes. They hire them again. They run in his cell one more time. You're going to have to get it out, man. Get it out. Sebastián, he was kind of, he offered a little resistance, but what could he really do? He wasn't no street dude. He wasn't really nice with his hands or anything. They ended up taking it. They roughed him up a little bit that time, but they never hit him in his face or nothing like that. Just kind of slung him around a little bit. So now at this point, Sebastián's been in this prison for a couple weeks. He's been robbed twice. Robbed for hire, if that's what you want to call it. You got the redneck white boys that's really, really hot on Sebastián's trail. But then at the same time, you got Chocolate, and he really has his eye on Sebastián. So, he's putting in his bid or what have you, and he learns of the situation that went down as far as the dudes running in his cell. Now, he didn't know that it was a robbery for hire, but he knew that some dudes had ran in Sebastian's cell. So he tells Sebastian, say, listen, man, this is what we can do, man. Because I know these guys personally, and I see that you go to the store on a regular basis. So this is what we'll do. Give me $60 a week, and I'm going to hold you down. $60 a week, I'm going to hold you down. I'm going to make sure that you don't have anything to worry about. I'm going to make sure that you are well protected. So Sebastian, he's very, very, confused, and he don't know really what to do. He's thinking about, man, I could just check in, man. Now, checking in just means you tell the people, hey, I don't feel safe on the yard. Then they send you to the hoe. But who wants to be in the hoe protective custody for 23 hours a day in a cell? And then he's been convinced that, okay, once you check in, they're just going to send you to another facility, and the same thing is going to happen at a different facility. Not to mention, Sebastian was close to home. So he was able to get visits from his family every single week. That was the closest prison. So if he gets transferred, he may go 3, 4, 5 hours away. It just depends. So he decided, you know what, man, I'm gonna tough it out. So he's thinking about this whole situation with Chocolate, and he's like, well, I'll tell you what, man, just give me some time, to think about it or what have you. Now, Chocolate, to his credit, he was trying to finesse Sebastian, but at the same time, he could have gotten aggressive. He could have been like, nah, man, this is what we gonna do, and this is what it is, man. Now, what you gonna do? But he didn't go that route. Something else ended up happening to where it was a verbal altercation over the telephone, to where the guys was trying to punk Sebastian over the phone. So Sebastian ends up going back to Chocolate a few days later, and he says, man, I'm gonna take you up on your offer. And Chocolate's like, oh, now you want to take me up on my offer? When I offered to you a couple times, you didn't want to do it, but so this is what we're going to do. It's still $60 a week, but we're going to get you moved in my cell. Chocolate already had a cellie, but it's easy to get somebody switched out of your cell. Only thing you got to do is just go to the administration, find somebody else that you want to move in with. Everybody signs stating that I don't have any conflict or any problems with this person. All parties agree. You can have whoever you want moved in to your cell for the most part. In the state of Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, like I said, it's not heavily gang populated, so you'll see a white guy in a cell with a black guy. Is a lot of other prisons is blacks with the blacks, whites with the whites, Mexicans with the Mexicans. Now, it's a lot of that goes on in Kentucky, but it's not. I've seen plenty of times where white guys and black guys share the cell. Sebastian really wasn't feeling that moving into the cell with Chocolate, because he knew what Chocolate's MO was, and Sebastian didn't swing that way whatsoever. He ends up moving into the cell with Sebastian, or with Chocolate. Next thing you know, no facial hair. That's the first sign. That's one of the first signs that, yeah, it's definitely going down. Now, he didn't really have a whole lot of facial hair anyway. He was only 24 years old, but he had a little mustache, and then he had the little P. Diddy beard. All of that was gone. He started, seeing Sebastian a little less. Well, while all this was going on, remember when I said Chocolate knew that some guys had ran down on Sebastian a couple times? But what he didn't know was them the redneck white boys. They wasn't feeling that whatsoever, because they done pay these dudes money twice. The whole goal was to get Sebastian to come back to them and be like, hey, man, that's cool. I'm gonna ride with you all, man. You know what I'm saying? Let me ride with you all because, I can't make it on this yard by myself. So they had paid the dudes, let's just say $70, $80 in commissary to do that, 2 different times, as far as going in Sebastian's cell robbing. So now they got a real problem. They got a problem with Sebastian because he doesn't want to come to them. And they got a problem with Chocolate because now you done interfered in our operation and we need our $80 back. Now, I don't know if 80 was the exact number. I'm just throwing that number out there. Well, Chocolate gets word of that. We got his own clique just as well. He ain't caring nothing about no redneck white boys. Now, it's crazy because the redneck white boys, they was cool. They weren't even, I don't think that they were racist. I seen them kick it with black dudes. I seen them, they just considered themselves rednecks from the hollers. So now they got a problem, as I mentioned, with country. Actually, let's rewind that. They got a problem with chocolate. So I get the two mixed up because there is a country and there's definitely a chocolate. So the word gets around that, it's going down. Chocolate ain't worried about that. He got his blade with him. He keeps that thing with him. And he got his little clique just as well. Sebastian's scared to death. He don't really know what to do. He don't want to really go out on the yard at this point because he don't know if these guys are going to get him at any point. Chocolate's not allowing Sebastian to go out on the yard by himself anyway, because he already knows what's going to go down. Now, Chocolate, he continues to do his thing. He continues to go to the yard. But the problem is, when he leaves the cell and Sebastian's in there by himself, anybody can run in on him. So he tells him, hey, leave the cell. Make sure that this cell stays locked at all times. Now, it's not the cell like the jail bars. It's an actual door. So it's more so like a room, really. And you can keep the door locked. But if you got a cool CO that's on, like, hey, man, pop this door for me, man. And dudes can run in. So it was a very, very tense moment on the yard, man, because everybody knew that it was just a matter of time before it was going to go down. They just didn't know when and how it was going to go down. Chocolate would go to the chow hall. Sebastian's right there with him. If he went, was playing poker, if he was playing, chess or what have you, Sebastian sit right there the entire time. Head down, or not really looking around too much. See, Chocolate was a possessive type of individual. So I don't necessarily want to call him a booty bandit, but in a sense, I guess he was, because he liked young white boys. That was his MO. And anytime that one came in, guess what? He was at him. So he made sure that Sebastian wasn't looking at no other dudes. You sit here with your head down, or you can watch the game or what have you. If I get up and leave, you get up and leave. That's just how it was. They would walk the track together, walk the yard together. They were seemingly a couple. Like, it was everywhere that you seen Chocolate, you seen Sebastian. One particular day, Chocolate was in the law library. And some weeks had went past. I don't know if he felt as though, it had died down, or I don't know what the situation was in his mind, but he was in the law library. Even though he had been sentenced to, I think he had like 30 years, his case was still in appeals. So like in prison, let me give y'all an example. Like, if you've never been to prison, guys stay in the law library appealing and fighting their cases, breaking their cases down, shepherdizing their cases. That just means they're breaking their case down. They're looking up similar cases to theirs because they're trying to get some relief. They're trying to figure out, how can I get my case back in the court so I can potentially go home one day, or go home a lot sooner. This particular afternoon, Chocolate's in the law library. Now, when he's in the law library, Sebastian is not with him. Sebastian's back in the cell. He's in the law library. He don't got none of his homeboys with him or anything. One of the redneck white boys sees that it's their opportunity. He's in there by themselves. He's in there by himself. They go and get a couple of their homies or what have you. They run in on Chocolate in the law library. They got weapons. They got the locks and the socks. They run in on him. Now, Chocolate, he's a big, strong dude, man. So it's going to take several of them to actually take him, if you will. They run in on him. He got his thing on him. He got that blade on him. He pulls that blade out, but you can't really do too much with a blade when dudes are swinging locks and socks at you. Locks in a sock at you. And it's like 5 of them. They finally get him. Just beat him. Beat him to a pulp, man. I mean, beat him down. They could have actually killed him, but they didn't. But they stomped him out real, real, real bad. So that blade did nothing for him. What can you do? Now imagine that. You imagine, okay, you got 5 guys around you, so you trying to fend them off. But these guys got these locks. And the socks are, regular size, socks or what have you. And they're swinging them at you. How can you possibly fight them off? They bust Chocolate up really, really bad. So once they bust him up, people come. They see exactly what happened, because they got cameras. But in the law library, this particular law library, the cameras, like, it's a whole lot of blind spots in prison. That's why a lot of things go down, because the cameras can't cover everything. Now think about this. Let's say 15 years ago. The technology in prison wasn't the way that it is now. And I'd imagine now that there's a lot more cameras and you can see a lot more that goes down. But back then it wasn't quite like that. So after they beat him down or whatever, they run out. Well, nobody's gonna say what they saw. Heck, when they seen him running in, man, they left. And when I say they, I'm speaking about like the other individuals that were in the law library, because it's never really a lot of people in the law library anyway. But when they seen that these dudes was coming in and they wasn't playing, man, they left anyway. So nobody really knew, as far as the staff. They didn't really know exactly who did it. They'll do their investigations and things of that nature, but they didn't know. They left out of there. Medical ended up coming in, tending to Chocolate. He ended up having to go to the hospital, not the infirmary, not medical on the yard. He ended up having to go to the outside hospital because they really, really did a number on him. Stomped him all the way out. Yard gets locked down. Sebastián knows, man. He hears. They coming for him too. They want him. Sebastián says no. No mas. He immediately goes to the people, tells him that he fears for his life, and they take him to the hole. Now, it's not really called the hole, but that's basically what it is. They take him to protective custody. Even in protective custody, people can still get at you. Because, let me give you an example. You'll have somebody, say one of they're 12 or 13 deep, right? So, the redneck white boys, the 12, 13 deep, they'll say, hey, this is what I need you to do, man. I need you to do something, do something that's gonna cause you to go to the hole for 15 days. Get in a fight or something like that. Some sort of prison infraction in which you'll have to go to the hole. Cool. They'll do that, go to the hole, and find a target. So, once this is explained to Sebastián and he's really, really understanding the prison system and how it works, he tells him, man, I need off his yard, man. I don't even feel safe. I don't even feel safe on this yard, whether I'm in protective custody or not. Y'all need to get me off his yard, man. His mom is calling up to the jail. His dad's calling up to the jail. They got a lawyer, and so they end up getting him off the yard because they threatened to sue. Now, I'm not just saying that it was just solely that, but the prison knew, okay, this guy, if he's telling us, and he got people up here, calling up here saying, hey, he doesn't need to be in this prison, man. His life is in danger. And then something happens to him, oh, man, they're going to get sued like crazy. So they ended up transferring him. Not sure exactly where he got transferred to. And Chocolate ended up getting sent to KSR. KSR is like a, Kentucky State Reformatory, I believe is what it's called. But basically, it's like a medical facility. So if you messed around or you have some medical issues or problems or what have you, a lot of times they're going to send you to KSR, man. And he ended up having to go to KSR for a little bit to recover. Plus, they weren't going to send him back to the same yard anyway. Them dudes did a number on him, man. They stomped him out, and nobody ever said anything. Nobody ever told, man. Them redneck white boys was cool, man, but, 12 or 13 deep, man, and you got some guys that's in the clique, and they violent, and they loyal. They're not the dudes you want to mess with, man. If y'all have sons, if you have, younger brothers or just anyone, understand that prison is not for everybody. Prison shouldn't be for anybody. But there's wolves in prison, man. There's goons, lions, tigers, and bears. And someone made in one of my comments and said, you forgot to mention sheep. And that's a very good point that you brought up. There's definitely sheep in prison, man. And they're going to expose you. And they're going to find out exactly what you are and what you about. And if you go in there acting tough, they're going to find out if you the man that you say you be. They're going to do their research and they're going to do their homework. Show them this video. Help keep these guys out of prison, man. Even when you're doing the right things in life, even when you think, okay, I'm not in the streets, I'm not committing no crimes, I go to work every day, I go to school, what have you. One bad decision can have you in a situation to where you're having to deal with the chocolates, the countries, as I mentioned earlier, the redneck white boys. You having to deal with people running in your cell, trying to extort you, trying to rob you, trying to trick you, trying to get your cheeks. Stay out of prison, man. Real Kens TV, man. Hopefully you liked the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive. Shout out to Sebastián, too, if you just happen to see this. Sebastián? Is that you, Sebastián?